I, Philip Joseph here.
I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
Came into government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body.
Basel 11 has not been in existence. 50 was...
Giant getting bazooka. You spraying big on to knock out mosquitoes.
I have never had a joint account with anybody in my life. Not my ex-wife, not my children, nobody. And I will refer that to the Privileges Committee.
What about the culture of people getting into office and not being effective?
What people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most ready.
Let's do it this Wednesday, because if it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live.
Very good evening to you. Welcome to another edition of NewsMaker Live right here on DBS Television. My name is Timothy Polian. We'll be together until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we'll be concluding with the clip that peaked. We'll be focusing on those people who are first line of defense in the fight against crime in St. Lucia. I'm talking about the members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and the president of the Police Welfare Association, Mr. Cameron Laure, is my guest this evening. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Amidst everything, let's talk about the morale of the police. How does one feel right now, being a police officer and taking into consideration the serious crime problem that we're experiencing right now, manifesting itself primarily in us having already 30 homicides for this year? That includes one police killing.
Tim, thank you for having me. And before I even answer the question, I want to say good night to St. Lucia, good night to all police officers who are tuned in, and even those who are hard at work and not able to tune in tonight. I want to extend, greetings even to those police officers who have lost their lives, the family of those police officers who have lost their lives, those police officers who are not doing very well tonight. And I really would like to express, the Welfare Association's position in sympathizing and empathizing with them. We have a police officer who was rushed to the hospital earlier today, and we're not sure what is going to happen. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that she is going to make it. We have another police officer who is in need of urgent, surgery, and we are hoping that, assistance will come her way and that she will be able to have the surgery done successfully. So good night to everybody who's listening. On the morale of the police, Tim, I will tell you, it's mixed. It is mixed for various reasons. There are some police officers by and large, I will tell you, they want to work. You listen to police officers who speak of the situation that we're faced with, and they want to work. They're eager to work. They want to make a difference in what is happening in our country. But, they also speak of how are they going to get that done, the lack of equipment, and so on. And as a result, as much as they want to work, they cannot, with everything they have, go forward and do what they have to do. But you have to commend those police officers who are out there, who are making it work, even with the limited resources. And they understand that it must be done. They take the risk, and they risk their lives and even that of their families to ensure that it is done. And you have to commend them, and I commend them as the president of the Welfare Association.
But you talk about limited resources.
Yes.
The government has been boasting about the number of vehicles, motorcycles, equipment that's been given to the police over the last 2 years and so many months. And the impression has been given that this is at an unprecedented level.
We have heard that, for a very long time, that we have given 30, we have given 20. Most of these vehicles and equipment that are being given are just replacements. They're given new, and probably even more are decommissioned. So it really does not even make a dent in terms of the equipment that is needed by the police to do what they're supposed to do. So if I will tell you, I have not seen, since I will say World Cup 2007, they're about 6-7, any significant number of equipment being given to the police for their operations. Since that time, it has been replacing. You get 5 new bikes, you have 3 or 4, even the same 5 being decommissioned. So we have not had any significant increase in terms of vehicles and the number of equipment that is needed. You have police officers today still sharing a bulletproof vest. You know that you come to work, you are being given a bulletproof vest to perform your duties. You drop it back at the end of your tour, and the tour coming in will use that very same vest. That is unacceptable, you know. And I don't know. I cannot imagine a reason why any employer would not be able to procure vests for the entire police force.
We're talking about employer. What about the representatives of the police? Let's say the Ministry of Home Affairs. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't the Home Affairs Ministry ensure that you have all the right equipment to work with and your condition is satisfactory? You're talking about the government, eh?
Yeah, but this is the employer. The employer is the government of St. Lucia. This is who employs police officers. So when I say the employer, I refer to the government of St. Lucia. And so we have not had, you know, and there's absolutely, in this day, there is no excuse, absolutely no excuse with what we're facing, the dedication of the police officers going out there to do what they're supposed to do. There's no excuse for a police officer not being well equipped, you know, to go out there and do that job. What I often say, what we need to see now is when you see a police officer in Vieux-Fort, when you see a police officer in Soufrière, Castries, Grizzly, this police officer you see one police officer. You cannot now see one police officer properly clad with all his gear, and by the time you move to the next community, a police officer is just bare uniform. You know, that is unacceptable. And I've heard of, you know, reforming the police, and these are some of the things that we have to look at. Ensuring that every single police officer is properly equipped with his personal protective equipment to go out there and do that job, because it is becoming increasingly dangerous. The risk is higher at this point. We have not been, I cannot remember when police officers were at a greater risk than now. So we need these things. There should not be an excuse.
Where is the leadership of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force in all this? Because if you're managing any entity, any institution, your line staff, the workers will perform satisfactorily if you have their best interest.
Yes.
I could imagine that police officers will be looking at the leadership, the hierarchy of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force with some level of suspicion if police officers have to share the bulletproof vests.
I agree, but this is where it starts, Tim. This is where it starts. It will be interesting, very interesting to know what is requested from the government by the leadership of the police. Are they requesting adequate vests? Are they saying that we only need 30 vehicles because we have 30 vehicles that we need to decommission? Or are they saying, really and truly, we need at least 60 to 70 new vehicles in addition to what is going to be recommissioned? So it is very interesting, and I had the pleasure of hearing from a government minister who said, what we give most of the time is what is requested by the police. So it is very, very interesting that that was said. So now you have to ask yourself, does the leadership of the police force itself have the best interests of the men and women who serve on the ground? I remember a commissioner saying to me one time, some years ago, that his responsibility is to ensure law and order is under control. My responsibility as president is to ensure the best terms and conditions of the police officers who I represent. And that is very true. So it is not a case where the president of the Welfare Association should be pro-commissioner or pro-government or anybody. You have to speak out. You have to apply the pressure where it needs to be applied, whether it's the commissioner, whether it is the government, and ensure that the officers that you represent have the best when they go out there. And I could tell you, Tim, at this point, we really do not have it. And the Welfare Association this year is going to look at three things. The well-being of police officers in terms of their health, the quality of life of a police officer, and of course we have the special police constables who are facing major issues, and we need to tackle this situation head on this time around.
Let's look at the health part of it.
Yes.
What are you requesting or require? What do you require from the authorities?
At this point, what we get from the government, free medicals at any government institution on island, if it is not able to be provided at this institution on island, but it's available somewhere else, for instance, Tapio, then the government will have to ensure that we receive treatment there. But when you speak of major medical, where a police officer has to leave the island, and most of the time that has to happen, for medical care out of Central. And there are many police officers who are seeking medical care outside of the island. There is no guarantee that the government will do anything for any police officer who has to seek medical care outside. Most times you have to beg. You have to really almost feel like you go down on your knees to beg, to ensure that this police officer gets an opportunity to ensure that their health is being taken care of outside of the island. And we have many instances like that. I, for one, have been in a situation where there's certain things that I had to do to ensure when my wife was ill and at the hospital, to ensure that she gets what she deserves as a police officer. And some of the things I had to do, I probably could have been killed, And I will give you the story. I could say it now. My wife was at the hospital in Matnik, and she called me frantic, saying she's being put out of the hospital because, of course, the government had not honored the promise to take care of the medical bills. And I flipped for a second, and I left my house and I stood at cul-de-sac, and I waited for the then Prime Minister to drive from into the main road, and I jumped in front of this vehicle, and I stopped the vehicle at cul-de-sac. And I'm not saying that for anybody to try it, because anything could happen. He has his security detail, and somebody might get shot if they do that. And I did that, and we had a conversation, and that was Dr. Anthony at the time. He asked me to come on board. I came on board. We had a very, very good conversation, and he assured me that things would be taken care of. It was not happening fast enough. I had to leave my home again and go to the Ministry of Home Affairs and demand that this happens now. And of course, at that point, everything had been passed on to the PS and everybody else, and from there they took care of it. So these are some of the things that one may think or feel that they need to do to ensure that they get what they justly deserve as a police officer. And police officers give their lives to ensuring that the country is safe, the people are safe. We cannot adequately do that if we do not have, the equipment, and if we cannot be guaranteed quality of life that is commensurate to the job that we actually do, the risk that we actually take. And these are some of the things that we have to ensure the employer, the government, understands.
Because if you think that things are really out of hand now, can you imagine a state without police officers?
No, I cannot. I don't think anybody can imagine a state without police officers.
You mentioned health, the plight of the special police.
Yeah. We have a situation. The special police constables, Timothy, for 30 years plus, they've been there augmenting the police. And they cannot be employed. The employment period cannot go past 3 years. So some of them are given a 6 months contract, if you want to put it like that, a 3-year contract. But this is being renewed every 3 years, every 6 months they're being given the same condition. And they have been there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And what the problem that it has posed is that those persons cannot face the bank with the job letter that they've been given, because it says that they are employed for no more than 3 years. So the employment will terminate in the next 2 years or the next 3 years or the next 6 months. The bank will not accept that. And that has caused major issues. And it is not just causing issues for them. It is causing issues for the country, for the police, because those persons make up almost half of the boots on the ground. So let us just say half of the boots on the ground cannot adequately secure a loan to build a home, or to buy a vehicle, or any of these things. And they have been agitating for that for as long as they have been there. They're frustrated. They're demoralized by this. They have persons call me and cry. A police officer called me and, 5 o'clock in the morning, crying, 8 o'clock in the evening, crying. What do you want me to do? What I've worked for almost 20 years, given everything, and I cannot even refinance to ensure that I can take care of my mother, I can take care of my home. So whilst they want to work, they're human beings, and they have to think of themselves, their family. They have to see the fruits of their labor. And if you cannot do that, Timothy, then invariably the system will suffer. The citizen will suffer, and that is something that we need to take on. What I intend, and the Welfare Association intend on doing this year, is to propose to the government, and it's a very good thing, it's happening now, because we're in the process of reviewing the Police Act. So we're doing this thing now. And we intend to propose to the government that they abolish the special constables as it is now. Those persons who are employed as special constables, absorb them into mainstream policing, regular police officers. You have the special reserves who are there, the structure is there in the Police Act, in the Constitution. Use them if there's any time the police needs additional manpower for whatever reason. But those special police constables who have worked, who have toiled, work harder than a lot of regular police officers, we're going to ask, absorb them. Abolish the special police constable situation that we have and allow them to become regular, train them. You need to get them on par with regular police officers. And one may ask, but how do you train so many police officers at any one time? You don't have to train them at any one time. A recommendation is we have the police training school, and we also have the fire service training academy somewhere in Viewfort. You could use them and train batches simultaneously. So over a period of time, everybody would have been trained within reasonable time. You employ ex-police officers who have worked at training school for the period, and you allow them to train those persons. But absorb them, abolish special police constable, use special reserve police to augment the police where it's necessary. And I think that is the only way forward for these people to see that they had the fruits of the labor. They have worked hard to see that, they could get something from what it is that they have done.
Your third subject area?
Pardon?
You spoke, there was a third area that you'll be addressing? You looked at health?
Quality of life. Mm-hmm. The quality of life of a police officer. It's sad, Tim. It's sad that you see a police officer who's retired, and you see this police officer is working, opening doors, for persons. And if you go to, we do not have an army in St. Lucia. Anything that happens, the police is the one who is going to respond, and RSS will, of course, assist. You go to any other country, law enforcement is treated with a level of respect that in some countries they don't even pay taxes. You understand? We need to feel that we have given our lives to the country. The average cost of a piece of land, Tim, is $15 a square foot. You hardly get 5,000 square feet of land anywhere on island now. The average cost of a 3-bedroom dwelling home, a little small, comfortable, is $500,000. The average cost of a 2-bedroom dwelling is between $300,000 and $400,000. How do you expect a police officer now to afford that for his family? We need to put systems in place for police officers to be able to be comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, you will always be burdened with taking care of your family and the struggles of it. And that is where the special duty comes in. And persons have said police officers are only interested in special duty. No. Police officers are interested in ensuring that they could provide for their family whilst they're out there fighting crime and doing what is necessary. So these are some of the areas that we're going to focus on this, this year. And we intend to push hard to ensure that, police officers are seen, respected, and, given what is duly that of a police officer.
Against the background of what you just said, they were referring to what the police receive in terms of health benefits, or the plight of the special police officers and the quality of life. Does that make police officers, some of them at least, vulnerable to taking bribes?
Yes, it does. It does. It's a reality. It does. It's why we cannot run away from the fact that you have some police officers who are corrupt. You have some police officers who have, been brought in disciplinarily for some of those issues. You have some police officers who have been dismissed as a result. So, and it does make police officers, susceptible to accepting bribes and engaging in other forms of corruption. So these are some of the things that you have to fight against. One, as an employer, as a commissioner, as a police officer, you have to always be true to yourself, the organization that you represent, and the Welfare Association will see how best we can ensure that you receive, due compensation for the job that you have pledged to do.
While you're demanding the best for your members, what about getting the best from your members?
Definitely.
For the satisfaction of the wider St. Lucian society, because right now with crime being out of control, 30 homicides, and last year you had over 70 homicides, and the year before a little over 70 as well. The image of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is not that of an outfit that is producing in terms of results, in terms of managing the crime problem. Now, somebody will tell you that it's more complicated than that. You cannot apportion all the blame on the police. You have to look at problems, social problems, problems in the home, and things of that nature. But why make such a strong case for the police when the people are not getting value for money from the police?
Excuse me. You say some people say it, Tim. It is fact. It is actually reality. Like, fighting crime is I will use a word that the government politicians love to use, is multifaceted, and everybody has to play their part. The police has to play their part, and as I said to you earlier, the police are ready to do what is necessary within the confines of the law to ensure that crime is brought under control. I think we are doing a good job in a number of areas. A very good job.
Those areas include what?
Look at our community relations branch. Look at the effect that we're having on. We actually go to the schools, we go to the communities to actually speak on on crime, meet those young persons who may have the tendency and attempt to dissuade them from the criminal thinking that they have, and we have seen a lot of results. Those results may not be published, and it's not been put out there, and that's something the police force has to do. We have to now show the public the results of some of these initiatives, and there are quite a number of them. Look at the successes that we've been having in terms of the recoveries of firearms, the type of firearms that we're recovering. And mind you, Tim, the persons who are on the ground, going into those areas, ensuring that they recover those firearms, they get the information and recover those firearms. It is not, it is dangerous, very, very dangerous, because most of the times you go into these areas, you don't even know the area. You have an idea as to where you're going. You're led by somebody who would know the place well enough, but it is very, very dangerous, and we have had many success stories, even in recent time, So we are doing very well. There's still a lot of room for improvement for the police, but for us to see the improvement that we want, the police must be respected and must be given what is due to the police to do the job. And when I say due to the police, I go back to equipment. You cannot tell me that you have given 30 vehicles, but those 30 vehicles have not made a dent. The 30 vehicles that you have given, it is to replace 30 or even 35 vehicles that have been decommissioned. You cannot tell me that a police station such as Grosley have limited vehicles or manpower. When was the last time? And it is not even the government on this one. If you ask yourself, when was the last time you had a manpower audit for the police? We don't know. And this is something that the Welfare Association is in the process of writing to request, because we're in the process of negotiation. So we need to know. We need there to be a manpower audit. So we need to know how many police officers should be at each police station based on the location, the numbers in the community. So these are the things that we need to put forward. Look at it, have a manpower audit. Look at the communities that where crime is on a high. Decide how you apportion police officers to those very communities. Training. You know, people say training. You must, every police officer must at this point be at a certain level of training to combat the type of crime that we're seeing. You cannot expect police officers to come from Viewfort and come and fight crime in Castries. Or Castries go fight crime in Viewfort. Or then, yes, if the help is needed, we will do it. But you need to have persons properly trained to do that. And also, you need police officers with integrity. You need police officers out there who, even if they are handed or shown cash, they will be able to turn their head and say no. You need police officers who are out there when they're enforcing traffic, that if somebody say, officer, I'll give you $50 and just forget that ticket, we would be able to actually arrest those persons for bribery. You need the police officer to have integrity, and that is fundamental. And this is where the police office, the Police Welfare Association, speaks to its members in terms of integrity and holding oneself to the highest of esteem where policing is concerned. Because one wrong move when you're out there as a police officer with one police officer who has no integrity or is corrupt may endanger the lives of everybody who is around him. So you need all of these things. You know, and the Welfare Association, Timothy, is agitating for our police officers, but we're also asking police officers, when you put yourself out there, be, as we would put it, a credit to your force. And we have those things in place. I think we're going to do a pretty good job in ensuring that crime is brought under control.
You talk about respect for the police earlier on. What about relations between the police and members of the public? It appears to be strained for the most part.
I think, Tim, I will say it is. You have the instances where police officers would behave in a manner that is unbecoming. But by and large, I think we have come a very, very long way in terms of relation and the professionalism that is out there by police officers.
No, but if you were to gauge the image of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and police officers in general in St. Lucia, it's not an enviable one.
You know what they say? Negativity always speaks louder. The person who is affected will always speak louder than those who receive, the level of professionalism that is expected. If I am aggrieved by a police officer, I will take to the media. But if a police officer comes to my house and he comes to search, he's pleasant, he does what he has to do in a professional manner, I may say it to a friend, but I will not go to social media, and that is what we're having. Social media has taken over. So anybody who is upset, straight to social media, and that is what would, I think, cause the image of the police force at this time to be, on a down. But if you have to, I think, poll from one home to the next, you would see a different result.
But you think most young people in our society, in the school system, youth organizations, they want to be police officers?
No.
Why do you think that's
and
the
that
case?
that's a question I was asked not too long ago. Because you look at the quality of life of a police officer today. And persons tell you, me, I want to be a police officer. One, look at the crime situation, look at the type of crimes that we're having, the risks involved in being a police officer. They see police officers on the road, bare uniform with no protective gear. They do not want to take that risk. And they want to be sure that when they get into a job, they could adequately provide for the family that they are to have to provide for.
The police, during the period 2010-2011, you had impacts, and this is very much unresolved. Even today, the Prime Minister and National Security Minister said that impacts is having a detrimental impact on the police, and in terms of them effecting their duties in a manner that would cause them to successfully manage the crime problem, as if it's an inhibiting factor. What say you to this?
Impact still has its effects on police officers, especially those police officers, the senior police officers who have been there, who knew of it, who understood, who felt, who felt what they felt. And that night of the 15th of March, it was in 2013, I think it was, when the then Prime Minister spoke on impacts, and there was a deafening silence the following day across the police force. And I think today I referred to what happened then. I said that the Prime Minister was irresponsible at the time in the manner in which he came out with the report and spoke on it. I still think so today. Police officers are still very careful in how they go out to perform.
The Prime Minister was being transparent in sharing some of the contents of that report that would have been prepared by the Implementation Agency for Crime and Security Impacts with the Sanusian public?
But what did it do?
What would have been the alternative? What would you suggest?
No, the alternative would be what is happening now, or what has happened over the last few years. Allow the report to be handed to the relevant authorities for further investigations. Because the report as it was, there was nothing proven or has been proven to be factual in the report. You understand? So what should have happened was what happened in recent years, where the report was used, information may have been extracted from it where it is necessary to further investigate, what happened during that period. But to come out, look what it did. Look how it made the general public, the police, you could say that the police was thrown under the bus at that time. Literally thrown under the bus. Police didn't even know how to react to people. People had all sorts of things to say to police. It completely demoralized the police force. We're starting to recover, but we're still feeling the effects of impacts. So I don't think it was the best thing then, and I still don't think so now, the way it was handled. Let's hope, in the near future that this thing will be over with. The guys are still very, very... So imagine some of them have retired, and it's still unsolved or unresolved. You understand? They've reached out to me a number of times. They're still very, very concerned as to what lies ahead for them. I've written to the commissioner that she should meet with those people, sit with them and have a frank conversation with them so that they understand exactly what is happening. That has not happened. It is disappointing that it has not happened. I think it is important. It is something that needs a degree of urgency. And for Commissioner, for whatever reason, a meeting was scheduled, but it had to be postponed, and it has not happened in several months. We're very, very disappointed in the Commissioner for that. And we cannot express our disappointment any more, than we have. And the members of that group, they too express to me. They call me, sometimes they send me some really nasty messages when they're frustrated. But I understand. I reach out to them and we have a conversation about it. But we're hoping that, within the short order...
What do you think a meeting between them and the police commissioner will achieve?
I think there are a lot of things that are happening where they're concerned. There's an investigation. There are a lot of things that are happening, and the commissioner may be able to answer some of the questions that they have that I cannot answer. What is happening to them? Why is it that they have not been able to be promoted? What is preventing them from being promoted? They have not been charged, they have not been arrested, they continue to work, but they are not being promoted. A former national security minister said openly that they are not eligible for promotions because of impacts. But why because of impacts? There's absolutely nothing that would prevent them from being. And I know as a police officer, if you are arrested and charged, you would be suspended, or you may not be suspended, but pending the outcome of the investigations or that case, then you would be promoted or so on. But then at this point, there's an investigation just like there are many other investigations. why is it that they are not able to enjoy the police force as any other police officer? And that is unfair to them.
But why do you think the delay, inordinate delay, in bringing this to some kind of satisfactory conclusion? Because it has been a while now since this report came out.
Investigation is a process. And just like any other investigations into any other crime, you know, it depends, it's a process. And until you are satisfied...
So you're saying that this is too complicated for there to be any kind of resolution anytime soon?
For you, Tim, for you to bring somebody before the court, you have to be satisfied that you have evidence to prove that they're guilty. Because it must be beyond, you know, a shadow of a doubt. If you cannot take somebody to court on your OD, you know, that makes no sense. So you have to go through the process of the investigations, and wherever it leads, at the end, then you make a determination. I don't know where the investigation is at this point, so I cannot speak to, you know, what is supposed to happen or where it is. I really cannot speak to it, but it's a process, and they have endured for a very long time that process. You know, the Welfare Association has been there with them throughout. But I think, you know, the commissioner...
But the DPP did promise. Soon after, it was just before the election of 2021 that he promised that there'll be some kind of resolution to this issue. A few months later. Then we need but it has been over 2 years now.
We need to hold the DPP to his word and ensure that whatever promises he made, whether it is one way or the other, he needs to keep his promise. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, we've been reporting on it. But people have been talking about, and you hear it all the time, even not something that one can ascribe to this administration only, but previous administrations, political interference in the work of the police. So as much as the police commissioner is independent, she would have been appointed with the blessing of the Prime Minister, but via the police commission and the Attorney General, not the Attorney General, but the Governor General. The Governor General. There's still suggestion that there's a lot of interference in the operations of the police force. Are you hearing about this?
I'll be frank, because as I said before, my responsibility is not to make excuses for the government, for the commissioner, or anybody. There has always been political interference in the police force. Always. You know, it's glaring to the average police officer, the interference that is there in the police force. It has been there before, it is there now. You know, you cannot run away from it. And as I've said before, the onus is on the police officer to ensure that he or she is not being used by politicians to do the work. And I say that, and I've said that before, that any police officer who is found wanting where they use their office, you know, for the gains of a politician, they should be fired immediately. You know, and where a commissioner is concerned, or the executive of the police force, everybody is fighting to reach the top. Everybody wants to be commissioner. You know, people do what they have to do. But there is, I make no bones about it, there is political interference. There has been for a very long time, and it continues to remain the same.
But why do you think we have not been able to ensure that the police force is an independent body that operates on its own without interference of politicians?
You know, I remember a former commissioner saying that if a list of names to be promoted reaches his desk from a politician, he will take it and put it in the bin. I remember that, and I admired this commissioner for that. One of the biggest issues with commissioners, in my mind, is that some commissioners do not understand the authority that they have. So the commissioner is formed under the Constitution. The commissioner cannot be transferred just because a politician wants him to be transferred. And we see the former commissioner, Mr. Regis, he was transferred, he won his case. A commissioner cannot be transferred if he does not agree to be transferred. And Mr. Mosheri was transferred because he agreed to be transferred. Now, if you understand that, you have superintendent over the police force and the operations of the police force. You can employ police officers from one rank until another. Outside of that is the Public Service Commission. You should not be intimidated by any politician when you make decisions which is in the best interest of the police force. As long as you understand that, you could make decisions that are in the best interest of the police force and law and order. And there's nothing a politician can do. Maybe this is why we've been hearing, you've heard that for quite some time, I don't know if it's true, that politicians employ commissioners that they feel, would do their work or would do what they want.
Because in effect, as much as the Constitution makes reference to the Governor General and the Public Service Commission, if the Prime Minister does not want a particular individual to be police commissioner, that person will never become the police commissioner.
That is correct.
So don't you think that person feels that he or she has to be indebted to the Prime Minister?
It happens.
Whoever that Prime Minister is.
Yeah, it happens, but no, you should not feel that you should be indebted to the Prime Minister. And that's where integrity comes in, That the commissioner should make the Prime Minister understand, listen, or whichever politician, that I am going to assume that role that you have recommended me to assume that role. Make no mistake, when I get there, I am not going to be a puppet. I am going to do what is in the best interest
but if you make
of
that statement, if you make that statement before you're appointed, it is very unlikely that any Prime Minister
then wait for when you're appointed and make
will
the
appoint
statement. I know police officers, senior police officers, who would make that statement, I know a few of them. I have had many conversations with them, and of course, I don't think they would ever be given the opportunity to be commissioner, but that's why it starts. No matter what the lower ranks do in terms of politics, the commissioner must have a hand on the force, because we are a disciplinary organization, We are a disciplinary organization. And this is why you have the rank and file. So the senior officer takes charge of the shift or the station when the officer who's supposed to be in charge is absent. When you're given a directive or an order by a senior officer or a supervisor, as long as it is not unlawful, if you disobey, disciplinary action should be taken against you. But if these things are not happening and it has to filter from the bottom all the way to the top, then we're in problems. And this is where, I think the police, there's an issue of discipline, yes, but this is where it is. We have to be the organization that it is intended for us to be.
The entire country is divided politically. What about the police force itself? We talked about political interference early on, but what about the division within the police force as an entity?
I don't think politics actually divides the force, because I speak to many police officers. I'm in a few police chat groups. Many police officers perform part, and there's political debate every single day. Some persons even, have the arguments and quarrels. Some persons leave the group. Some persons curse. But we are always, and I've always seen, that no matter how much we have differences in terms of political persuasions, we always come together. I see it and I laugh. It's amazing, Tim, when you see these conversations, heated conversations, and then a few minutes later, everybody comes together and we laugh and we joke and the job has to be done and we all come together to do the job. Police officers are human beings and we have, our biases as police officers, but when it comes to doing the job, I don't think police officers allow the politics to interfere in the way they come out and actually do what they have to do. Whether it is with a colleague supports a different political party or not, we always come together. It's amazing to see it. It's really amazing to see that.
The challenge of being president of the PWA, when no police officer would normally speak so frankly, when you have to speak your mind on the lack of resources, because, you don't hear the hierarchy of the police force speaking in such a frank manner and openly about what you made reference to, the fact that you have a lot of vehicles, yes, being replaced, but the number of other vehicles that have been decommissioned. It really makes no sense. It's stressing that we've provided the police with so many vehicles and so many motorcycles, etc. It does not make much of an impact. And you speak frankly on a range of other issues, political indifference and so on. Mm-hmm. How does that affect your relationship with the hierarchy of the police force, and generally, how are you seen by the membership?
To tell you, with the hierarchy, my experience over the years, and this is the experience of colleagues, presidents outside of the island, you know, because we form part of the Caribbean Federation of Police Welfare Associations. I was the first vice president and vice president over a 4-year period some time ago. You are not trusted. You're not trusted by when you speak frankly, you're not trusted by the hierarchy. You're not trusted by the employer. You just, you know, you walk into the room and persons don't want to say what they really want to say because they don't want you to take their word. They don't want to promise one thing and you hold them to that. So you're not trusted. And it's okay that for me it's okay, as long as I'm doing what I am mandated to do for my members. And for the members, when they speak, I meet members, I get so many persons commend me on both sides of the political divide. Persons that I know are on one side or the other. They say to me, boy, Mr. Laure, thank you. Persons send me messages. That's the president. That's how I want my president to be too. No matter what. You know, I am not, Timothy, I don't think any one person, maybe my daughter, could dictate what I do or how I do it in terms of my representation to the persons that I have chosen to represent. I will do what I have to do. I will speak against and for who I need to speak against and for. I will stand up when I need to stand up. I will commend the Prime Minister now if he is doing something that is good, and I will castigate the leader of the opposition tomorrow. I will commend the leader of the opposition tomorrow and castigate the Prime Minister. If I am to meet with the leader of the opposition tomorrow, I will meet with him, irrespective of what somebody may think. You know, if he wants to meet the Welfare Association, of course, yes, he's part of government. I will not say that I'm not going to meet him. If the Prime Minister wants to meet, of course, yes, I will meet. So there's no one, I'm not bound by any one person in terms outside of my membership. Only my membership can dictate what I do and how I do it. And if they say, Cameron, you need to go, I go. You need to stay, I stay. And that's just what it is for me.
Talking about your relationship and representing the police, what is the latest on the allegations that were made against a senior police officer with regard to sexual harassment in the workplace?
Although I don't want to say too much on that, but I could say that, what I will say, the commissioner will allow her conscience to guide her. And that's the most, the commissioner will, I hope, will be guided by her conscience. Commissioner has made certain pronouncements publicly to the association, and we expect her as a woman to be true to her word. So I allow her conscience to guide her. I await what is going to happen.
So can you remind us?
Pardon?
Can you remind us exactly?
It's public knowledge that and I will just remind you of what has been said publicly. If you remember during the sword turning ceremony of the Groseley police station site, she said to the press that there will be an investigation, and we wait to see what's going to happen. But she's a woman, and she has a conscience. I know she's a very, very good lady. She's a prayerful lady. She's a church-going lady. She will be guided by her conscience. That's as much as I'm going to say.
But she's due to demit office by when? June, July?
She's still in office.
Mm-hmm.
She is still in office. And when she demits office, we will judge, based on her actions as commissioner, not just on this issue, but, a few other issues.
Such as?
There are police officers who have been, you have this system when you get to 5 years of service, you automatically upgraded to, I think, Constable 1. You start at Constable 1, you upgraded to Constable 2, and the Senior Constable. Those persons, you know, for a very long time, we have seen a number of persons who are now 15 years of service, and they have not received, you know, their compensation in terms of the upgrade. And we have had meetings, and she has agreed to rectify that situation. Of course, we expect those persons to be paid retroactively, because they're not the ones who denied them that upgrade. They were denied by the executive. Whoever was responsible denied them. So we expect that they are going to be given what is due to them retroactively. So we have a few issues we expect to see the commissioner take action on, and that's where it's going to be.
And you're hoping it will happen between now and when she leaves, July?
We will see, we will do what we have to do as an association to ensure that, you know, our members get what they justly deserve.
Should the government decide to renew a contract? And
you're asking me, should they decide to renew a contract?
Yeah.
That would be within that would be the prerogative of the government if they decide to renew.
But
if they're satisfied with.
But you don't have an opinion. You don't think she should be or shouldn't?
No, I'm not going to opine on this thing. I will tell the commissioner, mind you, what I think. I will say it to her. Mm-hmm. You know, I will say it to my members, because I have a responsibility to report to my members my interactions with the commissioner of police. So when I meet with my members as a group, I say to them, as I said at my last meeting, I told them what I thought of the commissioner to date. I said to my members, when I meet with commissioner, we have frank discussion. I will say, Madam Commissioner, this is what I think, X, Y, and Z. And when I speak to commissioner, it's not just based on what I think, but what is reported to me by my members, how they feel, the experiences. I bring it forward to her.
And you're saying your members have communicated to you how they feel with regard to a stewardship?
All the time, yes. All the time. I get calls, I meet with police officers, you know, and of course, not everybody will like you. You know, not everybody will hit you. So there are some who really like, and there are some who say she could be doing better, and so on. So,
but don't tell me whether they like or not. But what is the percentage? What is the percentage?
Like I said,
54.
It is not
50, 50, 60,
it is
40.
not for me to speak of the commissioner like that publicly. You know, I will speak to my members, as I said, and tell them exactly what it is with us and what our interactions have been. And I will speak to commissioner when we meet and tell her what the members are saying, you know, based on the experience.
We heard from the Home Affairs Minister just yesterday, prior to a sitting of Parliament, that very soon she would be relieved of the Home Affairs Ministry. I think that ministry might be passed on to the Crime Prevention Minister. Your thoughts on this? And plans now to probably reconfigure national security, make it a standalone ministry?
You are asking me my thoughts on making it a standalone ministry, or
what I understand, yes,
yeah. Well,
it will move from the current Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Virginia Albert Poyot, to the Crime Prevention Minister, and that is Jeremiah Norbert. And then we still have an issue with national security.
Yes.
It was stated that the possibility does exist. You might have a standalone national security ministry.
It's still, I've been told of this. It's still a bit confusing as to what really is going to happen. So I'm waiting, you know, for whether there's going to be a meeting with the Welfare Association or whether it's going to be discussed in the policy during the policy debate. I'm still waiting. So if the Prime Minister believes that Mr. Norbert is competent enough to run the the Home Affairs Ministry, who am I to say that he's not? He's from one of us. He has been there. I believe that he understands. If I remember, during his time as a police officer, he worked a lot on the ground. He knows of the plight of the police officers. He knows the lack of manpower, vehicle, equipment, the bulletproof vest. He was a very active police officer, so he understands. I remember saying the very same thing for a former commissioner, a former Home Affairs Minister, and I was disappointed in his stewardship. You know, so
that's Mr. Herman Gil Francis.
Mr. Herman Gil Francis, yes.
Why were you disappointed? And we'll put a telephone number on screen that you can call right now with your questions and comments for my guest, President of the PWA, Mr. Cameron Laure. So why were you disappointed in his stewardship?
Because for the very same reasons that I just spoke of, equipment. Giving the police what they need to fight, you know, the crime situation, and putting the resources. Don't give us $2 million. If you're going to want to fight crime, we want to hear we have at least $80 million going towards equipment. And let's see equipment come flooding and challenge the police to do the job. I have given you what is yours. I challenge you now. I want, from commissioner down, I want to see this crime situation be brought under control. Don't give us a quarter of it and then expect us to go out and arrest the crime situation as if you have given us the world, you know, and you expect the world from us. No. So I was very disappointed because he came from us. He was one of us. He made it to Deputy Commissioner of Police. So he knew all of these things. Nobody had to beg for it. Nobody had to go ask for it. So in my mind, he should have come in as a national security minister and said, this is going to be the focus. I'm going to make my police officers look like police officers whilst performing their duties and challenge us. So I was disappointed in that. So I'm saying the very same thing for Mr. Norbert. He was one of us, still considered to be one of us. So I'm hoping that if he gets the opportunity to make the difference, that he actually, you know, does that.
But I don't think the big problem is that they're not holding the purse strings. They're not responsible for finance.
Then you have to let, you see.
But then again,
but
then again, the current finance minister is also
the minister of national security.
Yeah.
And the current finance minister, you know, speaks all the time. His father being a police officer is a product of the police.
Well, at that point we have a call. Good evening to you. This is NewsMaker Live. You're on the air.
Yeah, good night, Tim.
Hello, good evening to you, caller.
Yes, good night.
Okay, you can hear?
Yeah.
But I can't hear. I cannot hear the caller. But go ahead, caller.
You can hear me?
I could hear you. Go ahead, caller.
Oh, yes. In fact, I am very pleased with the performance of our police officers, although they are being given a lot of salary in our saying. But I still believe that they're doing a good job, and I wish them well. And but one thing is troubling to me is the fact that it takes when there is a road accident, the traffic department takes over 3 to 4 months to give a report. And sometimes, you know, your vehicle is out there, you know, waiting for a report, the insurance and all them kind of things you have to go through, you know. So I am wondering what keeps the office from providing one with a report at least in a matter of a week.
Okay, I can hear you now. All right, thank you so much, caller. Go ahead.
Okay, I thank you very much, caller, for acknowledging that we are doing, you know, a good job. And with the police, I think we need to simplify the system. I've been part of it. I've been a victim of waiting for a report for a couple of months. And I think we need to simplify the system, especially where traffic is concerned. It is, you have as a traffic investigator to complete your file. Most of the times to complete your file and then, you know, pass it through. I think we should have a simpler system to ensure that somebody could get a report.
We have somebody on the line. Good evening to you. This is NewsMaker Live. You're on the air.
Yeah, the big one.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, Mr. Laure, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Laure, what is your rank now?
I'm constable. I think I remember this caller.
Yeah.
That we have interacted many times.
So you asked me a question that I've answered.
Yes. Were you reverted?
Pardon?
Because when I used to interact with you a long time ago, you were a corporal.
I've acted so many times. So yeah, could have been.
That must be very frustrating to you.
It is. It could be, but you know, I do what I have to, nonetheless.
Because
okay, let me ask you: do you feel like you're being victimized?
Yes, of course.
I was coming to that.
Not today, not yesterday. From as far back as 2006, if I could recall.
You're taking too long. That's why I sold your thunder.
If I could recall certain things that happened to me. You know? Yes, sir.
But allow the caller to go on.
You know who's speaking?
Yes.
Right? When I used to interact with you, you were a copper.
Yes.
And you are a very dynamic person. You're one of the future leaders. That's how I looked at you at the time. I do not know what happened between 2013 and now, where you are concerned. But I believe that you're one of the best PWA presidents we've had. I mean, I served on that board with Mr. Peter Cherry, Mr. Herman Gil Francis, and you know how far they went. Now, when it comes to victimization and frustration, I can identify with that. But I still bettered you right in that line, because I spent 17 years as a sergeant of police, would have been promoted until can you have it in?
Loud and clear, sir.
Until a former commissioner of police called me and told me, so and so, why don't you do this thing alone? I was 43 years old. He told me, don't you see that these people have no regard for you? Right? And at age 43, I retired from the Royal Central Police Force because I couldn't take it no more. I'm not asking you to retire. I think you are a committed police officer. You are very, very committed. But not only that you've been victimized. You're not only being victimized. You've been ostracized. Because I know you. And you know who you're speaking to. Right? You are a good guy. I don't think that you should be part of that organization. I know you're committed. And I know that your men respect you. I know there are those who are against you too. But the more you stay within that organization, the worse you make it for yourself. There is life after retirement, Mr. Laure. Think it over. Just think it over, because you make it worse. Because in the long run, when you see police officers turn against you, they turn against you forever. So keep your head up. Right? Walk with your head high, and I hope this advice sits with you well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I know the gentleman very, very well.
You have another call?
In a while, but,
Good evening. NewsMaker Live, you on the air?
Hi. Tim, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening to Mr. Laure also.
Good evening, sir.
There's a question I want to ask Mr. Laure. Do you think that the police service, as it is currently structured, could effectively do the job it is intended to do?
Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. Do you think that the police force, and I'm speaking in the context of something you mentioned a while ago, in that we have now somebody who is destined to be, I think, the head of the Minister for National Security. He's also Minister of Crime Prevention and some other things. Now, this individual, what was his rank in the police force prior to going into politics?
You speak of Mr. Norbert.
Mr. Jeremiah Norbert.
Mr. Norbert left as a constable.
As a constable?
Yeah.
But now, he was a constable, but yet still I hear you say that you have every confidence he can perform at the level of a minister.
No, that is not, hold on, sir. That is not what I said. I said if the Prime Minister believes that he is competent enough to perform in the ministry that we were speaking of, then I am not going to question that decision. The Prime Minister interacts with him. They work together. He knows, I suppose, of his competence and his growth. And if he believes that, then I'm not going to question it. I'm not in a position to question it.
So in that respect, it goes back to my original question. Do you believe that the police service as currently structured, or it is structured in a manner that will allow it to do the job it is supposed to do? That is one question. And the other question is, do you believe that for the police force to effectively do its job, it has to be depoliticized in the same sense that in any army of any Western country, for example, politics is not accepted within the rank and file. And I mean, you can point to the U.S. in particular. Within the rank and file, while you may have people doing whatever, it is not something that is open, right? So do you think there would be something to be gained in depoliticizing the police force? In other words, make it a condition of employment that this is not tolerated, in the same way that any private company does not tolerate open conversation about politics within within the office confines.
Right,
what do you think about that?
Thank you so much.
Of course, it would, be a better place if the police force was depoliticized. But can you really do that? One may say that there's so many things that would come up in terms of rights and, infringement on rights of persons' rights. So it would be a very, very good thing, yes. But can it actually happen? I don't know that it can.
Let's get another call. Good evening, NewsMaker Live. You're on the air.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Cameron.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Cameron.
Yes, sir.
A lot of the problem we're facing today, is actually created by the police force. So why? You will ask.
What are those problems?
The problem that is the crime problem.
In what way?
In what way, Tim? Tim is not the big. It's not the big things that started in St. Lucia. A lot of small things, Tim. Crime, breaking and enter homes. I had about maybe 20 or 40 break and enters at my houses, all over, and the police couldn't catch one person. Make the reports, bring the evidence. You make a report to CID. You sit down in the CID office like you're the one that's the criminal. Questions upon questions upon questions about me. Not about the criminal, but about me. All the information, you have to give them that back over. The following day, with the officer you give the report, when you search for him, he's somewhere working for the Bureau, for St. Lucia Distillers, somewhere in some government office, These are and then the criminals have the opportunity to take your stuff and sell it abroad, sell it quickly. And based on who that commit the crime, the police will act. If they realize the name is bigger than the Prime Minister, they will not act on that. Because, for instance, I had about almost 80-something batteries stolen in my place. Right? It was a big name person. Big name, I won't mention name team on your show. But the police and them came. They went on the site. They took photos of all the batteries on the person's site. The evidence was there. We had about 5 witnesses that came, that saw everything. They brought the crime scene officers came down up to a day like today. The scene went from one officer to another officer. One officer told me, that person, I'm not going to take care of that. They switched about 3 different officers on that very same case. Where do we go from here? The problem, because if a police officer is being paid, right, $200 for a day's work, and a crime commit the night before, and he have to go and serve the company that he's working for on his side job, will you think that officer will go and do his investigation during the course of the day? No, he'll forget about that. And then the following day he's off. The next day he might fall sick. And then there's nothing happening. So all of the things that we're facing. But one of the things that I always say to the officers, what goes around comes around. If you don't do it for St. Lucia, your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren will be facing the very same battle that I am facing today. Gentlemen, let us do everything we do for St. Lucia. Pay the police right, Mr. Prime Minister. Give them houses. Give them the things that they need to become an officer. A police officer should not have 2 jobs. No way. It's supposed to be 1 job. You serve the country. When you reach a certain age, you retire. You want to go and do what? You want to do security. You want to do something else. It's no problem. But you should not be on a second job while you're serving the state as a police officer. Have a good night, sir.
All right, you too, sir. Let me hear from you, Mr. Cameron Law.
I empathize with the caller. It's obvious that he has gone through, some things he probably have not. Maybe he did not meet the best officer. Maybe, there's a reason. But one thing I'm going to say, there are areas where he could seek redress if he's not satisfied with the performance of a police officer. There's our complaints unit. He could report it, of course, to his supervisor and so forth until he gets the satisfaction that he's seeking. But a police officer on his private time,
good night.
He should be allowed to do whatever. Your health is your responsibility.
We have another call. Good evening, NewsMaker Live, you on the air.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, I'm the guy that just finished talking there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had that very same problem. They break into my house 7 times. The police never did anything for me.
You said the police never did anything for you.
And nothing never happened. Right? So that's exactly how it runs. Okay, good night.
Good night,
right,
sir.
thank you so much.
I cannot speak on his experience. I can only empathize if what he's saying is the truth. And, ask that when these things happen, and I ask the public, if you're not satisfied with the performance of the police officer who's handling your matter, you speak to the supervisor. If you're not satisfied, you go as far as you can to the commissioner if you have to. And that needs to happen. Persons need to know that there are these areas that you could, go to seek redress.
Another call. Good evening, NewsMaker Live, you on the air.
Hello, good night, Timothy. Good night, Mr. Laure.
Hi, good evening to you, sir. Sir Alex George.
And how are you?
I'm okay, sir.
I'm doing very well, sir.
Good, good. A while ago, you mentioned that there's always been political interference in the police force.
I did.
I want to tell you that there has been an exception.
Okay.
Because when I was minister, I have never interfered in any matter in the police force.
Even before you continue, Mr. George.
Hello?
Yes, Sir Alex George.
Sir George. Sir Alex George. Even I joined the force, shortly after he became.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I will commend him. He was a very good national security minister. Okay. I have never heard or seen anything that would suggest, and I could say that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you made that exception, because as a minister of national security, I think I tried to uplift the police force. Number one, I got an increase for every single police officer, because I felt that police officers were not treated well. They were underpaid for the quality and the nature of the work that they have, and I still maintain that. I still maintain that up to today. Now, the other problem that I have is, I think I have discussed that with you, the whole question of the special police constables and so on, which I think is an unfair situation for the people involved there. And I think that your organization should try and make some kind of proposals for as far as I'm concerned, it should be eliminated, and a new thing. And you train your police officers, increase the number of police officers that you train to a number, and get to the requisite number that the estimates have given you. But this business of those having those non-police doing police work, right, I think should be stopped. The other matter that I wanted to advise you on, and Timothy knows my position as far as the operation Restore Confidence people are concerned. This thing has been going on for far too long, and you have people in positions where you are frustrated, they are depressed, they do not know what is going to happen to them after all that. If there is insufficient evidence to prove, especially when you in that the nature of the crime that you say they have committed, You cannot have those people in limbo for all these years. It's time for that thing to come to a stop.
Very true.
It's unfair to the guys, and it's unfair to the force.
Very
So
true.
I believe that you, as the president of the association, should really pressurize the powers that be to make a definite decision on that. Whether the DPPs have come twice, they've had 2 DPPs on the matter, and they cannot make a decision up to now. When do you think that they're going to make the decision? It is quite clear that you do not have enough evidence of the nature to be able to charge those guys. So it is no point in having those fellows suffering there all the time. And it is time for that to end. So I want to advise you that you should do something about it on behalf of those specific people and get the government to make a decision one way or the other. As far as I was concerned, I've said it and said it before, that Dr. Anthony should never have entertained the pressure that was put upon him in respect of the U.S. people in that matter. We have our procedures, right? If the procedures cannot give you enough information to think, you drop the case.
Very true.
Right. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question, Sir George?
Yes.
Just one thing. In light of the slave master house slave statement and the fallout, what's your reaction?
Timothy, Timothy, this is another matter which doesn't come into that thing. But I sent you my reply, and you very well know. If I come to give you the history of that, I will tell you, number one, that political interference, or rather the issue of racism in the politics of St. Lucia, started off, number one, by John Compton. When John Compton had the fight with the Barnards, right, in 1957. Okay? Then you had the situation where Compton himself said that there was no way in which he would allow a Barnard, meaning Kenny Anthony, to come back and rule the country. That's one of the reasons why he went back into politics. All right? And he attacked Kenny Anthony as a member of the slave owner group, although the Barnards were never slave owners, right? Then you had whereby during the fight between the SLP and the UWP, where Vaughan Lewis said that was going to be a fight between the son of a slave owner, right, and the son of a slave. That is what was said. Then you have the position where Michael Chastney himself, Alan Chastney himself called Dr. Anthony Massa, the Massa man. And I sent you the clip. So you should know. That is my reply to you, Timothy. I am not making any kind of excuse, no kind of apology to anybody. All right? The position, my position, is a personal position. It has nothing to do with the St. Lucia Labour Party. It is my position on my observations and so on of the behavior, the demeanor, and the way in which Alan Chastney has conducted himself. The man has disrespected every single speaker of the House, including 2 of his own. and his mannerisms inside there are very, very clear. So I am not going to go into more details at this time. I can discuss it with you personally when you come and see me one of these days.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you so much for calling the broadcast. Just there from Sir Calix George. We continue with your calls, and my guest this evening is the president of the Police Welfare Association, Mr. Cameron Laure. We continue to focus on the law enforcement personnel in St. Lucia, as you just heard from Mr. Laure, their plight and issues that are impacting them.
Before you go, I just got a message from a senior member of the executive of the force who said the gentleman who called earlier with the complaint of his home being broken, that he has made several calls to several programs, and this particular senior officer has asked that he visit him so he could, deal with the matter for him. But to date, he has not done so. So I encourage him to take the opportunity to go to that particular senior officer, and he will probably get some resolve.
Okay. Let's talk about the case. We have a call coming in. Good evening, NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening to you, Mr. Laure.
Good evening.
I want to make a point as to, you spoke earlier about the welfare of police officers, and I want to emphasize or point out your opinion on the decision of the government back in 2003, I believe, to put all public servants, including police officers, under 65-year mandate.
We are getting some difficulty in hearing you properly, so maybe our technical producer can increase the volume. But continue. Continue, sir.
Yes, to me, I do not think that it is right for a police officer who will give his whole life, his career, to this job, and he has to leave with no gratuity, no form of compensation, whether it's 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years, and he can only get pension at the age of 65. In this kind of time and climate where people barely 60 years, when you ask the officer to give all of his years and he gets nothing, no form of compensation, not a dollar after he retires. So I want to ask Mr. Cameron, what is the welfare doing in terms of correcting this? Because to me, this is the greatest form of indignation and wrongdoing for police officers, that you would sacrifice your life, put your life on the line, and then you and your family receive nothing after all of these years of service. And you have to wait for a paltry pension at 65 after risking your life and giving your all. That, to me, that cannot be right.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
I share his opinion, and I don't know why or how, it was allowed to happen with there having been a police welfare association existing for so long before 2003. That should have been fought from then, and it should never have been allowed to happen to police officers. And mind you, it is something that has happened throughout the region. Every island that I have had conversations with, the same exists, but it is something that has to be looked at. And we will be making a proposal, as it relates to that very issue in not this negotiation, probably the other, once we negotiate the other tribe.
Paul, good evening, NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, Rick.
Good night.
And so, notice your little fire that I ignored.
Yeah, we're still not hearing you too clearly, but go ahead, Rick. Continue.
Oh, Mr. Laure, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. You touched on impact, and I am not sure if you would agree with me that perhaps the biggest problem in front of the police force and functioning with the trust of the people is impact. I don't know if you'll agree with that.
I disagree. I disagree. I think the impacts would have worsened it, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. If you're saying that, then
okay.
yeah.
Let me tell you, let me give you a personal experience. last week, and Tim may help me, there's a police officer, I don't know if he's the deputy commissioner. The police shot a guy who eventually died the next day.
Right.
And he was supposed to be shot in the leg. And Tim, there was a police officer talking about it on TV. Was it the deputy police commissioner? Tim?
Tim is not hearing you too clearly, but I think it was, yes.
Well, I'm not hearing him
Yes.
at all.
Okay, that's the deputy police commissioner. And is that the same police commissioner who is being accused of various things?
Yes.
All right, good. I'll tell you what occurred to me. I wasn't even sure who he was, and neither was I sure he was the one that the allegations have been made against. So that didn't poison what I was thinking. But I listened to him, Mr. Laure, and I heard him talking about how the police would never do anything not in tune with the law, how the arrest would be proper, how the police would only shoot in self-defense when they had no other choice, that they would never do anything, he could put his hand in the line, that the police would never do anything unlawful, etc., etc. And I couldn't help thinking that is precisely what Kenny Anthony's report said, that the police said in other cases, the impact cases, and that the police lied. And Kenny Anthony said they planted guns, the same way as this man is saying now, that the guy had a gun. There were supposed to be 3 guys, but we only know about 1. What happened to the other 2? Nothing is being said about them. And I couldn't help, and maybe that's very sad, because if there had been a resolution, I would not be focused on that while I was hearing the police officer talking about this engagement that ended up in the death of this guy. Because what the police officer was saying was precisely what Impacts investigated, and Kenny Anthony told the whole world that there were fake crime scenes, that the guns were planted, and so on and so on and so on. You with me on that?
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm following.
Good. So I was tempted. I had doubts in my mind as to the credibility of the particular police officer saying that. You will notice also there hasn't been any real noise or curiosity or anything regarding that death, even in terms of saying, well, the police were great, wonderful, they caught one of them. None of that's going on because the public does not know how to react. That is the problem. They don't know how to react. In other words, they don't trust the police. And finally, I want to say this to you. Calix asked you a question, you didn't answer him on that. But anyway, 2 weeks before the last general elections, the Director of Public Prosecution announced that he was going to take certain action about certain particular people associated with the shootings after the inquest had taken place. You remember that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that the DPP announced he was taking certain action based on the inquest in Beaufort and the inquest in Castries?
You see, I'll tell you because I don't know what actions the DPP could take.
Well, no, I didn't ask you that. I'm saying he announced it.
I don't remember.
All right, okay, well, trust me on that, it's correct, and okay. I'm sure Tim will remember.
I did make reference to it early on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, before you called, yeah.
So what remains to be resolved is for the DPP to do as he said he was going to do 2 weeks before the last elections. That's what, and he's been on it since 2011, 2012. So when Calix says you talk to the powers that be, there are no powers that be. It is for the DPP to do what he promised the country he would do in the interest of the police, the police who are suffering, as well as in the interest of those who are accused and must be considered innocent, as well as their survivors, and most of all, to restore some public trust in the police, because whether you like it or not, Mr. Laure, the public does not trust the police, and all those other little, and you know, another thing too, you have at Bordelais, 76% of the inmates are on custodial remand. There are people at Bordelais who've been on remand for 15 years, 10 years. Those things are criminal. And the public is reacting to all of that. So you have quite a job on your hands restoring the public faith in the police. I wish you luck.
All right, sir. Thank you.
For our sakes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
so much.
Rick.
Final comments from you, Mr. Law?
Yes, Tim, I want to encourage, the police to do what we're doing. Go out there, be vigilant, go out there. You must do the job, you must produce. We have a responsibility to the citizenry, and we have to take it serious as police officers. Do what you have to do within the confines of the law to ensure that we bring the crime situation to a manageable level. I want to thank you, Tim, for having me. I want to thank St. Lucia for tuning in and listening. I want to thank the callers, and I hope that I'm back within a short order.
You'll be getting an invitation very soon, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being my guest on this evening's NewsMaker Live. And to you, thank you so much for watching and listening and commenting in the chat room as well. If it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
Come in. Morning. I am Dr. Kenneth Supersad. How may I help you?
Good morning. My mom sent me for a checkup because I never did one before.
Well, a medical examination is very important. But I have to tell you, if I need to do a proper examination of you, you will have to take your clothes off.
My clothes? I don't want to take off my clothes. I never take off my clothes for anybody.
No, but if I have to do a proper examination, you will have to take off your clothes.
No, not my clothes.
Well, listen, if it would make you feel more comfortable, I will take off the lights. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, come on.
Where to put my clothes?
Just put it on the side here on top of mine.
Once again, that's the broadcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Timothy Pauling. I'm saying good night and see you next time.
I, Philip Joseph here. I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
Came into government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body.
Basel 11 has not been in existence. 50 was...
Giant getting bazooka. You spraying big on to knock out mosquitoes.
I have never had a joint account with anybody in my life. Not my ex-wife, not my children, nobody. And I will refer that to the Privileges Committee.
What about the culture of people getting into office and not being effective?
What people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most ready.
Let's do it this Wednesday, because if it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live.